Welcome everyone to this webinar, Connecting Nature When It's Out to Get You. In this time of the pandemic, how can we be all that we can be, loving the beauty that we are? So let's begin. Let's talk about the pandemic with this poem of the same name by Lynn Unger. And when your body has become still, reach out with your heart. Know that we are connected in ways that are terrifying and beautiful. Don't reach out with your hands. Reach out with your heart. Reach out with your words. Reach out with all the tendrils of compassion that move invisibly where we cannot touch. Promise the world your love, for better, for worse, in sickness and in health, so as long as we shall live. And with those words, we begin this webinar. You may be watching it by yourself, so at any time, pause and take notes, journal, stretch, do any of the exercises that are in this particular webinar. And if you're watching it with someone else, that's just great. So pause and you can do this check-in now. Who's here? Who's here with you and who's not here with you? And then one of the check-in questions is, how has COVID-19 and the social distancing impacted you, for better or for worse? In my case, I'm isolated in the home, as all of you all are, and I hope you are safe and your loved ones are as well. One of the aspects that it's done for me is many of my international trips have canceled because borders are closed, and it brings a spaciousness that I haven't had, a slowing down. It's allowed me to turn in and catch up on my spiritual practices and those writing projects that I will put off. And so that's one piece of the gratitude I can feel in this time of hardness. You know, and you can share how you are doing. You just email us and we'll respond or get with us on Facebook. So this webinar is about something called nature nearing. How can we get close to nature when it's out to get us? Is that right? And it always has been. And that's why we keep our distance, as being both prey and a little worried about our own kind sometimes, and pestilence and plagues and viruses and predators. You know, we do want to get away, and that's a good instinct. That is great for us. And here's the paradox: in this time of distancing and seeing the reality of nature, of what's out there and how hard it can be on humans and other wildlife and the planet Earth, how can we use this time to be more intentional and more deeply connect to the beauty that's around us and inside of us? So nature nearing in this time is, how can we embrace reality, which is a web of beauty and tragedy? How can we do this practice of accepting and loving all that is? It's a kind of ecological intelligence, this nature nearing. It's about, and let's breathe deep on this, accepting the inherent harm and tragedy and benefit and beauty in life systems. It's always there. The pandemic maybe just recalls it for us. And then, having accepted this reality, perhaps we can increase our choice in how to react to this reality. Maybe even the quick reality, when it changes so quick as it has for so many around the world in the last several months. And so by accepting this reality or being with it, engaged with it, as we embrace it, I feel that we are embraced back. At least I know I am, that in my life, I much prefer the reality than the projections of my own ego. Both are harmful. And so I'd rather be engaged and perhaps running away and being closed up in the house and not hugging the porcupine, but I would rather be engaged than project a world that is not true, that does not resonate, and I don't feel as welcomed and if I'm just making the world up based on the way I want it to be. So in this time of nature nearing, how can we look at the world around us and be empathized with, such as we matter, we're we are being heard and listened to. We are part of this. We are welcome. And this idea of empathy is always present for us. It's gaining a sense of belonging through experience and connection and beauty in the biotic community. And biotic community means that which is alive. So let's be embraced, shall we? And how can we do this? Especially when they're asking us to even go outside alone. But you know what? When you're outside, you're never alone. You're always in a relationship. Sometimes we're just consciously not aware of it, but subconsciously, yes. So what can we do? Well, we can experience this nature nearing in going for a walk. Now, I realize not everyone can go for a walk, or it may not be safe, or our mobility issues. But I've got a next slide to kind of do a work around that. But if you can walk, if you can get out, it has all kinds of health benefits for you. You can read the list here about health and cognition and happiness, promotes healings, it can reduce crime rates in an area. And here's the funny thing about going for a walk. Even if you don't want to, like you've got a to-do list, you don't feel good, or you're tired, you reap the same health benefits. Subconsciously, we know we belong and we're interacting and we're all part of this world, and maybe it doesn't rise up to the thinking part, of the awareness part, but it's happening for us anyway. So get out and go for a 15-minute walk. And let's talk about mobility issues or the weather, or it's just not safe to get out. The studies also show that if you look out at a window and look out at trees and life, even plants inside the home, even a picture of trees, it's not as significant, the changes that or the health benefits, but they're still present. So wherever you are, just right now even, look out the window and breathe deep. So here's another little tip while you're out for a walk, or just even in your home, is to stop and listen. These young boys in Honduras listening to the sap rising in the trees. It's spring, and much of the North Americas and Europe, where I live, outside of New York City. Do you know you can put your ear against mostly a smooth bark tree? You can hear their vesicles moving, the phylum of the sap rising, because it's spring and they got to get up there and make those leaves work. So put your ear against a tree. If you have a stethoscope, even better, and listen. Listen around you, to your own heart, to your own breath, maybe the cars in the distance, the birds in the trees. Just listen, listen. And while you're out there, go find a tree to hug. Maybe don't hug a tree that your neighbors just hugged. We want to do our social distancing, but go out and do that. Listen to the tree and hug it. And I don't know about you, when I wrap my arms around a tree, I feel hugged back. Yeah, there's just something about that, the body movement of wanting to hug even another person. We actually feel like we're hugging ourselves. I think it's a stimulus that we've been evolved to. Well, if we hug someone, we also feel good about it. So in the case of a tree, go out and hug a tree. Also, look up. Either if you're looking through your window or if you're outside. Again, the studies have shown that when we look up, it does some integration to our mental capacities, and we have a greater sense of compassion and kindness. They did a study where they had one group look up and another group not look up. And the group that looked up came away with a greater sense of compassion and kindness. And all kinds of clarity can come from this looking up. So as you may, look up, look out, birds and trees and the sun and the stars, and breathe deep as you do it. Matter of fact, wherever you are, you just poke out the window and look up. Few more hints that either in your room where you are now, or if you could just step outside the door, just open the door. Just breathe deep and stretch if you can. Why is that so helpful? Well, breathing deep, you stimulate the lungs, push up against this thing called the vagal nerve, which attaches the brain to your internal organs and your heart, and It stimulates the parasympathetic system, which says you're okay. And so there's a reason why we breathe deep. And then the stretching like this says, come on, world. I'm not scared. I don't need to protect my neck or be ready to fight or flight. I do this. And so when we open ourselves up, we open ourselves to connection. And so here you are stretching. And here's another movement you can do is to bow. And if you can, you go all the way down and touch plants on your way or the grass and just touch the ground. Why is that great? Well, see the dog bowing? So many animals do that bowing. They get low. And when they get low, it's play, stimulates play. And it also says, maybe you're stronger than I am, but I'm going to put myself vulnerable to you. I'm going to give you my neck. I'm going to get lower. And you know, they've done studies where people who bow, they come away with greater compassion and kindness. So it's good for us. We lose our ego. And this is all a part of connecting. And then, of course, using our sensory. Like I said, the brain doesn't always know that we belong and we attach. So go ahead and touch things and smell things deeply. And then I think this is the final tip that you can do is go out and find another species, another being, and follow them. Remember the six foot distance, but no, really keep your distance so that the other species, the other being has comfort. And just be them. Be a bird beyond a word. You know, just do what they're doing. Move like they do, because as we move like they do, we can empathize with them, and it just in our subconscious brains and our vertebrate bodies, it allows us to kind of know what they're thinking and feeling. And then, of course, you can always analyze and journal about, well, what were they doing? So here's a case of just being and moving like another being. This is a shoebill heron. And here we go. You also get the bow in while you're at it to praise and honor another being. People ask, why is that bird bowing? What's happening with that? I'm going to guess it comes out of their territory or their reproductive. It's possibly a motion that they do amongst themselves, and this particular shoebill found a way to do it with humans. So what are your ideas? What do you do to connect to nature, to embrace reality? Give us an email or a message on Facebook. Journal about it. Also, what is your plan? What are you going to do to connect to yourself and to nature? And if you'd like to let us know what you come up with or anything else you might need from us in this time, we will not be able to do as much as our field work as we have been doing because the international borders are closed, and probably some of our in-person wild walks as well will need to be put on hold. But we have resources. We have a lot of videos on our One Earth Conservation site. And then we have this book of nurturing discussions or practices. It's really kind of set up for small groups talking, but you can do it online with other people. And you can also do it yourself, read it and do the practices, like some of the things that we did today. So go online and investigate all of that. And so I'd like to end the webinar with this poem by Jean Latimer that I think it sums up where we are now, or a practice that we can take up. And she writes, there is a moment in time when the soul chooses love over fear. It may take eons to reach that point, but when it comes, it sweeps away all distrust, all suffering and judgment. We can prepare for it by practicing some simple techniques. We practice feeling everything so that when love comes, we feel it fully. So yeah, we're uncomfortable now. Some of us are, but we feel it because we're ready for love. We practice mindfulness, like when we go for a walk, so that when love comes, it is sustained by the discipline of choosing not to indulge the small mind's need to negate and judge. We practice embracing that which we hate, our diseases, our addictions and troubles, so that love is felt wholly. And we do all of this so that when the moment of love comes, we are swept away. And so I wish for you this practice in this time of the pandemic. And as a closing practice, gratitude is a great thing. It helps sustain our happiness, it gives us resilience, and it helps us to see always the beauty is always present. There is no beauty without tragedy, but there is no tragedy without beauty as well. So take this moment to breathe deep and stretch and share gratitude with those in the room with you, or write it down. And what are you grateful for? I'm grateful for this time to offer this webinar for you, and the possibility that we may be able to deepen our connections as we slow down, go for a walk, really, really trust that beauty that is all around.